Hello. Welcome, everybody. We are here for Word Live Wednesdays with Word Bookstores. And my name's Holly. I am one of the booksellers at our Brooklyn location. And I'm here with Nadia of the Storygraph, which is very exciting. We are big fans over here, especially a couple of our booksellers who talk about the Storygraph a lot. So we're thrilled to have Nadia on our call today. I also have Amanda joining us from the Jersey City location.
Hi.
Say hi, Amanda.
Hi. Can you hear me? I'm so sorry. As usual, I can't figure out the technology. Oh, I'm here. Okay, I got it. Can you see my face?
We can.
Wait, hold on. No.
So, Nadia, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Nadia, the founder and CEO of The Storygraph, which is the app that helps you track your reading and choose your next book to read based on your moods and any topic or themes that you're interested in. If you see, I see my co-founder Rob is in the chat. He's watching too, so he'll be able to answer any questions in the chat.
And Deidre, I see she's in the chat as well. Our operations director.
So I'm familiar with the Storygraph. I'm a regular user, but if someone has no idea, like Amanda.
I have no idea. I have no idea, but I am intrigued. I've never, as Holly knows, because we've talked about this, I've never tracked my reading before. It's not an impulse I generally have, but I'm really curious to hear about this and hear your motivations behind creating it. And I'm sure I'll have a lot of questions that will be evident to the people who use it. So I apologize for avid users if my questions seem kind of dumb. But anyway.
We have avid users who are discovering new features every day, features that have existed since the beginning and stuff. So hopefully they'll learn something new about the product, no matter what the questions are.
Awesome. Great. So Holly, do you have...
So if you were describing the Storygraph to somebody who was not, isn't necessarily coming from Goodreads, which I know is where a lot of your users come from, like how would you describe it?
I would say the Storygraph is like this super smart best friend who knows you very well, so knows you both in terms of what kind of books you like, but also understands your moods and what you're going through, and has a huge brain which stores all the books you've ever read, you thought about those books, and they also know about all of the books in the world. And so you can go to this friend and you can say, hey, what should I read next? And because your friend has this amazing understanding of everything you've read and how you're feeling right now and the specific things you like to read about, they can make the perfect suggestion for your next book.
Sounds like the best friend I need in my life.
That sounds very appealing. It does sound very appealing. I will admit. Yeah.
So it's in case...
Oh, no, sorry. I guess go on, continue, and then I will ask my very first question based on what you just said.
All I was going to say was, but you can have a conversation because I know that we use machine learning in our product, and I know that there's sometimes skepticism about like, oh, it's just a computer or an algorithm telling me what to do. And so what we've built into it is you can communicate with this friend and you can say, I specifically am looking for this today, and no, I didn't like that. What about this? Or today I'm going to be someone different, so treat me as if I'm this kind of person, and then tell me what. So we try and give our users a lot of control to really personalize the experience rather than just dictate, you're going to like this, definitely.
Okay. I guess my question is, so you addressed that it's like a computer, people might feel reticent about using the algorithm, but there are humans, I'm assuming, who are creating these algorithms. And I was just curious as to who are the people behind this algorithm, like who are to create this really big like brain that we can be in touch with. Was it like educators, librarians, booksellers?
It was us. It was all, we've all developed everything in-house. Rob Bob, who's in the chat, is the main brain. He does all the machine learning, but everything was built in-house from scratch. We learned as we went, lots of manual hours, researching, figuring out how to do things, and just improving our algorithms based on user feedback over the last, couple of years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow, that's awesome.
This may be too technical of a question, so you can tell me, but I have a background in this tech, and so I'm curious about the machine learning part of things, because I remember when I was setting up my StoryGraph account and I did the Goodreads import, but then there was a way for me to type in like the tropes that I liked or didn't like, or the kind of, and it was just an open text box, which felt so freeing, instead of like check the boxes of like, do you like romance? Do you like whatever? Like I could write out, I love intergenerational friendships. And yes. I'm wondering how you incorporate that. Like, how do you know what books that matches with? Where do you pull that information from?
I have to say that is our secret sauce. That is our magic. So we are, at least not now, we're keeping that under wraps, because that is something that is one of our magic features. And so we are working on, like, we're building it up, we're getting feedback on how people use it, and we're continuing improving it. But, like I said, it's a StoryGraph secret sauce. So I can't give too much away on that right now.
Well, Amanda, I know, has a trope that she would definitely put in if she was making a StoryGraph. You want to tell us?
Oh, you're unmuted. I'm unmuted now. I'm sorry. I'm on my phone. Well, that was a moment of high tension. Oh, there are so many tropes that I love, particularly in the romance genre. There's the are you thinking the like enemies to lovers trope? Is that the one you're thinking? Or is it the fake romance, the fake dating trope? Because I love that one too. I
was thinking of, Amanda has a very specific love of books that have a protagonist of a difficult woman who's making choices,
the difficult woman making the difficult woman making questionable choices, but who I still believe is deserving of happiness. That's my favorite of any genre. If I type that into StoryGraph, that whole phrase, do you think?
Try it and see what you get. And then let us know, because either it's great, cool, or it's not great, and then we can go and improve it and figure out, how to make it better. But that's why I say the vision of the friend, that's what we're really going for. Like I can communicate to somebody, and they can give me a book. And actually, we found that. Holly, you may have found this. It is a free text box, right? And that is not, from a user experience perspective, it's not the easiest to engage with. So while it's super powerful because you can type in anything you want, it's very daunting when you're being onboarded, and you're also not used to, describing books you like this way. And so something that we are, Rob and I, we're going to work on at some point is how do we combine this fact that you can say specific tropes that you like with an easier, smoother onboarding experience that allows people to, really think about what they like, as opposed to just putting in, set phrases or things like that. And so that's something that we're looking forward to improving. And we recently, Abby, who works with us, recently put together some guidelines that you can get to when you're filling out the survey, when you're going in to edit your survey, to help you think about books you've liked in the past, and how can you figure out, okay, what some people might not know, wait, what is a trope I like? What are themes I like? And so we've put together these guidelines to help people better about that. We found when they do fill it out correctly, the recommendations are magic, and that's what we want to get for as many people as possible.
I can say that I regularly find things on there that I weren't even on my radar, and I work with books all the time, so that's really fun.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Something I particularly like that I'd love to hear more about what it was like to develop it is the reviews part of things, because I know that was a main motivator for me to join StoryGraph, was both being able to do half stars and things like that. That's actually how I heard about you, was somebody saying, I want half stars, go over here. But also being able to say more than just a review, like marking the moods that I feel like it fits in, being able to see content warnings, like what did you draw on to decide what that was going to look like?
So when I first started working on this, I was at a point where I knew, based on the side, that I was wanting to book. So I spent months talking to people. I didn't know what the product was going to be at this point. But I was talking to people, and something that kept on coming up was, oh, I also find it really hard to write reviews because it's just the star rating, and the star rating isn't granular enough. So that's when I was like, okay, we're going to have half and quarter stars so nobody can complain about granularity. But the other thing was, but then there's this box that I never know what to put. So when I was thinking about, when I knew that the product that I was going to build was going to have reviews in it, I said, okay, we need to have a way that if you don't know what, so some people write brilliant, as you know, from Bookstagram, brilliant long, you know, kind of essays, or they just know how to write amazing reviews, and some people don't. And also you don't have to, right? Sometimes you just want to track for yourself, you know, what you thought, or you want to remember so that you can easily recommend it to someone else. And so that was what I was thinking. I thought, okay, how can we make a review that is not just based on a subjective, a personal opinion, which is star rating, or also block people from expressing their opinion because it's just an empty text box. So that's when I thought, okay, what are kind of questions or check boxes or things that if people just want to mark a few things, the review can still be helpful to someone else, whether that person liked the book or not. So that's why we say, rather, you can put your star rating if you want, and you can go down to 0.25 or 0.75, but you can say, what was the mood of this book? Was it dark? Was it adventurous? Because even if you thought for you it wasn't a great book and you gave it 2 stars, someone might have read the blurb and then seen that. And also 80% of people say it's dark and adventurous and fast paced. And I love books like that. So I'm going to check it out. It doesn't matter what your rating was. And so that's why we have the moods the mood check boxes, because it's also a way you discover books. So it's like also a way that you can also say, well, you know, did it fit the moods, or how did you respond to it? And then we have things like also, what did you think of the pace? But then for fiction books, we have the character questions as well, because when I was doing my research, that's when I joined the books community on Instagram. And I noticed that a lot of people were saying, oh, I love me an unreliable narrator, or these characters were just so lovable, or I'm looking for books with more diverse characters. This was pulled from just what I was reading every day. And so the questions that we have are the 4 main themes that I was seeing all of the time. In fact, we've now got an extra question, which is it more character driven or plot driven or character driven? Again, because I was seeing that was a key decision factor for people choosing a book. And so essentially all of this stuff was built up from originally saying we need an easier way for anyone to be able to give a helpful review. And also, what are the factors that people seem to care about when they are looking for their next read? And so that's how that developed. So it was with the community. I remember at the time I was doing Instagram stories asking people's opinions on what the initial mood list was and what the character questions would be. Did people understand them? So it was the story graph is in general like very community and customer led and driven.
Yeah, I have to say, even being on the platform and following you on Instagram, I totally feel like if I had something that I was like, it really needs this, that I could just message and I feel like my voice would be heard. And that is so unlike most experiences with a lot of tech products. So kudos on that.
Thank you. Yeah, we really try, like across Instagram. It's so funny, like we'll be, even from Instagram DMs, Twitter mentions, the number of times people say, they've tagged us, and the number of times they say, oh, I wasn't expecting a response. And it's like, to us, that's like, what? Why not? You've asked a very reasonable product question. We're here to help. I get lots of DMs start with, hello, I don't want to bother you, but I have a question, if you can help me, please. And they're kind of sheepish. And it's always a pleasure that when we can get back to people and they have that feeling of, oh, wow, I was heard, I was helped. And that's something that as we grow, we really want to focus on continuing that even as we grow.
Yeah. I know that the last couple. Oh, sorry, Amanda, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, listening to you describe the decisions that you were making and the questions that you're asking and the input that we, the user, get to give to you in order to get a book recommendation. That was a really long preamble. But it's like what's interesting is what you are doing. It's at such a perfect moment, because what you're teaching in some ways is literacy. You're teaching people how to browse at a library when libraries aren't necessarily accessible right now because so many libraries are closed. due to the pandemic. You're teaching people how to browse when they're not able to browse in person, because those are all questions we ask as booksellers. Those are questions librarians have asked me, that librarians have asked my kids. And I feel like it's a real service that you're providing with this platform, because you're teaching, like, so many people don't even know the questions to ask, or they feel like what they, you know, how they might describe a book is not like what they're supposed to be saying. But I don't know, I feel like you're really providing a kind of like education and personal literacy with this, just the way that you were describing it, because I think it's a skill, learning how to browse and trust your instincts. Like, my children's librarian said that to me once. She was like, you know, some kids don't really know how to choose a book. They don't know how to like browse. They don't know how to articulate what they want. And I feel like that's what these questions are doing. So it's really amazing that you're able to put it all in one place and provide the service.
Oh, thank you. It made me think of something that comes up quite regularly in my customer interviews. So customer interviews, I'll be trying to answer a certain product question or figure out, where to go next with something. And when a lot of users talk about how they love the stats, or they love that little on your profile page. We basically look at your most read moods, your most chosen book size, and we say you mainly read, emotional, reflective, dark books that are about 300 to 499 pages. They're fast paced, and often people call this out because they say, I never knew how to describe the types of books I liked before, and now I feel like I have this new vocabulary for talking about books, because sometimes I would focus on the genre, but it's not always the genre. It's the, it's, yes, emotional or reflective books that think, or they have these themes. So when we hear that, like, yeah, that is really fulfilling for us, because we're like, well, wow, this hobby that people love and they spend hours doing and they've been doing for years. So they are, people are avid readers. The fact that we can still unlock a new vocabulary for them, or a new way of thinking or browsing, as you say, like, is super fulfilling and cool to see. Oh no, is Holly frozen?
Holly, are you there?
Sorry, Amanda.
Okay.
Are you muted again?
I'm not muted. I am muting myself right now.
Okay. So something that we do at Word, and I thought might be fun to do with you, is every once in a while we run a thing called the Booksellers In, where people tell us a little bit about what they like reading or what they're in the mood for, and we just use our collective hive mind, our miniature storygraph hive mind,
nice.
to like think of books that, and more than once I have gone to Storygraph and been like, I'm out of ideas. Let's see what Nadia can tell me. But I polled some of my coworkers to get some mood ideas to see if there was books that you could think of that might fit the moods, if that sounds fun.
You're asking me to do the job of the algorithm that we made. I can try. Am I allowed to put up the app if I've got nothing? Exactly.
We can just ask Storygraph.
Yeah.
So one of the questions was, what would you read if you wanted to feel like it was twilight on a summer night?
Twilight on a summer night. So twilight, like,
this can also be something just that you've read, because that's usually what we pull off of.
Twilight. When we think of twilight, it's the sun is setting, right?
Yes.
Or it's the sun is setting. It's like sunset, just before sunset. It's the summer.
This is hard. Let me think. Sun is setting. So we're going for, like, I'm trying to think, like, kind of cozy, relaxing vibes. Or we could get cozy, maybe.
I know, it's tough.
It's tough. I'm thinking.
I asked that question. You should know that
this was you, because we could also go for creepy true crime vibes.
I guess I was thinking some sort of kind of like the long summer nights. Like, it's twilight. You have the night. It's warm, kind of sultry. But I don't know. I was thinking like an English country house book, or like I don't know. I would have to think.
When you first asked that one, the one that came to mind for me is one of my favorite books called The Secret Life of Bees, because it's very like, it's set in like South Carolina and the whole thing's really warm. But it's a little bit tragic.
Okay. Yeah. I like it.
I was kind of thinking of maybe like a kind of a romance. Like I recently read Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and that was kind of fun. And that had kind of, you know, cozy, steamy, but fun, and the kind of like you can stay up all night reading it. So perhaps that's
maybe a nice direction to go in too. I like that. Yeah. You have the whole night ahead of you to read. Exactly. That's great. I love it.
and maybe ideally in a hammock.
Right.
Yeah. So that one's a good one. And then I thought of another one. It's another romance. I'm going down the romance route for this Twilight thing.
I love it.
It's called If I Don't Have You by Sarita Domingo. And it's like it's different parts of the States and the UK, and it's kind of got global. And there are a lot of scenes like in the evenings or in the nights, and like people meeting on the streets and things like that. So it has that kind of summer night vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
I have to check that one out. You're hangry. What would you recommend to somebody who's hangry?
Ooh, I have a book.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, this would make it worse, wouldn't it? The first book that came into my mind was Robin Sloan. I think that's the name of the author. Sourdough.
I love that book.
So this is about a woman who essentially discovers the perfect sourdough.
Oh my God.
And like from a takeaway one evening, because she's trying to find something to eat. And it's like, what happens with this new obsession with the sourdough, what goes on? And there's like, if you like kind of startup-y stories, it's set in San Francisco, it's got a tech element, then it's a fun read. But it will make you hungry, at least for if you like bread. Huh?
Is it a novel? It's a novel.
It's a novel. It's a novel.
novel.
It's
Okay.
fiction. It's a fun fiction set in San Francisco, tech startup-y world.
Cool.
Amanda, what would you recommend for hangry?
Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what I would recommend? I would recommend this middle grade book called Dumpling Days by Grace Lynn. And it's about this, it's kind of a fictionalized autobiography of the author. Is that right? And it's about the summer that this girl, her name is Pacey, and they spend it in Taiwan with her parents' family. They go to celebrate her grandmother's birthday, but it is like my daughter and I read it together, and they go to the night market in Taipei. They're constantly eating these great foods, and like all we wanted to do was eat dumplings after we finished this book. Like literally, like the food writing in this middle grade book is so evocative. And then after my daughter and I finished this book, we went out and we got dumplings. We like went to the Queen. There's a night market in Queens, and we went to the Queens night market. We ate dumplings from all around the world. So that is the first one that comes to mind if I were to read a book when I was hangry. But would that make me feel better or worse if I'm like so hungry I'm angry?
I'm thinking, don't we need to go for books that kind of put you off food, right?
Yes, something kind of grotesque. Or I don't know. I'm not sure. Gosh, I don't know.
I haven't read it, but I can think of the one book we had in the store for a while called A Certain Hunger, and the cover is someone holding a human heart, which really, really ruins the appetite.
Yeah, that's
so something like that is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Let's do one more. You missed your subway stop and had to walk through an unfamiliar neighborhood to reach your destination.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, this is so. When you said you missed your subway stop, it made me think of a book I read recently, which is Casey McQuiston's
One Last Stop. Oh my gosh. Hello.
And so I was like, oh, like, especially it's interesting because I don't want to spoil anything about it, but there's an element to that which when you said, you know, taking an alternative direction, it kind of tied into that. So chance encounters. So that's one. I'm trying to think what else. Like you have to go, I'm trying to think of kind of something where you unexpectedly take another direction or something like that.
Or you're feeling unsettled because you're in a strange neighborhood.
I have a good one. What's it called? It's by When No One Is Watching.
Oh,
No one
yes.
by Alice Cole. And that's like about what happens in a neighborhood, like a neighborhood that's the fate of the neighborhood is changing and what happens. And that was my first ever audiobook last year, and I really enjoyed it. So if you do read via audio, I definitely recommend getting that one on audio. It's a thriller, and it's about being unsettled in a neighborhood.
Nice.
So.
And she writes romance as well, just Alyssa Cole. She writes some great romance as well.
Well, it's funny to say that, because there was some parts of it that took me by surprise. And then when I heard it was a romance writer, I was like, oh, this makes sense. Because it's I was like, okay.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, I've only read her romance.
I know what to recommend if somebody wants thriller with a bit of steam.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say yes. What would you recommend, Holly?
Oh dear. This is kind of an offbeat answer, but I really liked Girl, Woman, Other. And why it came to mind was because it feels like you're being plopped into lots of different lives as you're reading, and you have to kind of like find your footing really quickly. It doesn't like tell you what's going on. You're just suddenly in this woman's life. But then it all comes together at the end. And I imagine that's what it would feel like when you finally found your plate, like you suddenly recognize where you were while you're trying to navigate your way home. Like there's a part at the end of the book where it all just like comes together and it's beautiful. But before that, it's a little bit disorienting in a really fun way.
Okay.
That's one of my all-time favorite books.
It's so good.
Nice. Interesting.
Oh, I love that one.
I don't know what I would choose, but all of a sudden the book The Life of Pi kind of popped into my head. Because he's like totally adrift in a boat with a tiger. Not that you, I mean, that's very dramatic, but sometimes when you like get off a subway stop or whatever and you're in a completely different neighborhood and you don't know where you are, you're like, even if you're like 5 blocks away from where you're supposed to be, you feel like, well, I'm never going to find my way home. I guess I live in this neighborhood now. Now I live in the middle of the ocean in a boat with a tiger. I don't know why. I don't know why that book just popped into my head, but that's the one I was thinking.
Good one.
Yeah.
Cool. I just love that no matter what, something that works.
You're back.
You're back.
You cut off a little bit.
Froze for a minute.
We had.
Can you repeat what you said? Because I think you froze for 1 second.
I said I love that there's a way to boil down somebody's like description into a book. Like it's one of the most fun things I feel about being in the book world is when someone says, I'm feeling this. And you're like, well, let's find you something that will meet you where you're at.
There's a lot of
the story, guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wait,
head over here.
Did you mention this? How long has Storygraph been around? I'm so sorry. I feel like I should know this, but
I haven't mentioned it. So I started working on it January of 2019, but there wasn't a beta product until June of 2019. So I spent 3 months talking to people, another few months building an alpha product, which was just a personal recommendation product. There was nothing else to it. It was very bare bones, very rough. If you go on our Instagram and you click on our product dev highlight, you'll see what the day that I drew out, like what the original first product was going to be, and like what the alpha site looked like as well. You see a couple of videos. And in September of 2019 was when the beta first became public. So anyone could join. But until then, I was manually onboarding each person.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, which took days sometimes. And we launched officially out of beta January 2020. Like all the years, it's like, I'm like, wait, we're in 2021 now. I've got this wrong. No, we launched officially January 2021. January 2020, I like relaunched the beta. That was it. I made like a launch event out of it. This is how the time, especially because of the pandemic, like everything is, we launched officially out of beta January 2021.
So this is only 8 months old? Is that officially when you launched out of beta? I mean, 2019 is when you started it, but
yeah,
but
it's like,
wow. Oh my goodness.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, I would say the start date, if you're thinking about the product, I would have to say, even though it was beta, it has to be September 2019, because that was when, the product was just a continual development until the point where we basically said, let's remove the beta label. So to say we've only been around for 8 months would be a bit of a, like, it wouldn't be honest to how long we've been on it. But yes, officially we launched in 2021, but the product has been around for, it's been two years and 8 months of continual, either product development or research.
Wow. Okay. That's still a short.
Had, like, quite an influx lately, right?
Yeah.
How has that been to, like, suddenly be the #1 app for that genre?
I know that was wild because we when we were getting the apps, I didn't know how the App Store charts worked. I just assumed, especially based on the apps that were at the top, which were Goodreads, Wattpad, Kindle, Audible. I just assumed they were basically entrenched in those positions. And so when we were launching our apps in the App Store and the Play Store, I just thought that, oh, how cool if one day, years in the future, we got into the top 10. Literally, I thought it would be years of, or at least a year, months, several months before we would even, get in that kind of thing. And it wasn't something that we were trying to do. We're just trying to focus on making the product better, a little bit better every single day. And then when we first launched the apps, just the excitement of that took us up to #4 in the UK and #9 in the US. The US was more competitive. And then last week, I'm looking at it because all the weeks are just like this time last week, actually, is when it was really kicking off. The handle's Jill's Baby. They did a TikTok video, and we've had, TikTok videos done about us before, but this one really took off. You know how the internet works, something goes viral. When we first actually exploded in the pandemic in June of 2020, that's another story. That was a tweet that suddenly went viral. But fast forward to now, this was a TikTok video of someone just saying, here's why we're all switching to StoryGraph. And it just, showcased a few of the features. It was this person's face imposed over the app. And essentially things were already wild when there was just only 9,000 likes. And I remember I was asleep. So I'm in the UK, and Rob is on the east coast of the east coast of the States. And he called me to say, there's some TikTok, you need to come. There's lots of stuff happening, because there was a sudden influx of thousands of people using the product. And we were used to hundreds at a time, and now there were thousands. And this was when it had 9,000. By the end of the 24 hours later, this had 225,000 likes, over 200,000 views, over 3,000 comments, like so many shares. And essentially we grew by 40,000 users in one day. And now we have a new, oh no, Holly's gone. But I'll finish off the answer and maybe she'll come back before I'm done. But essentially, we grew by 40,000 users. And so we had to, Rob and I, we had to, first of all, we spent 6 hours straight. It was overnight for me, just figuring out how do we adapt our systems and our software and everything to handle this increased load. It was new for us. And then it was a case of, influx of if there were some questions or just people asking things about, how the product works. And luckily there wasn't an overload such that clearly we've been improving things over time. So certain things that, people used to ask for, we've worked on now. But there were certain things. It's very interesting because when you have an influx of people, you see where the pain points are, because you're everyone is asking about this thing, or everyone's asking about that. And that then helps inform, product direction in the future. What's interesting is that TikTok, we feel like it's a different type of audience because it's a younger audience. They could be very sassy with us in the comments or in the reviews, and we have a lot of we're being called besties now, but people writing in support tickets. So it's fun.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun, but yeah, we're now dealing. We passed 360,000 users last week.
360,000 users. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. So Holly is saying that her internet connection.
Oh no.
Her internet connection is weak. So she's trying to get back on.
Okay.
And hold on one second. But I guess I had a sort of, I know you probably don't want to answer these like questions of the future or whatever. But for Storygraph, like how do you, and it's grown so much so quickly. So you're obviously like doing so much right now, but where do you envision this going, or like in terms of the future of Storygraph? Do you, like I was talking before about sort of like literacy and like libraries and education and that sort of, is that something that you would be interested in sort of expanding in, like maybe use in schools or use and with like kids and reading and literacy and that sort of thing? Or are you just kind of, is that anything that you had ever thought about, or were you thinking about it? Are you thinking about it? I don't know. I feel like it's such a great tool. Anyway, I just feel like now that I know about it, I'm going to be like your number one fan, even though I never like used anything like this before. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This would be amazing for my kids. Oh, I'm so sorry. Where did I go? Am I here? I'm here. I'm back. Sorry. Anyway, that was my question. And then I have another question that Holly asked me, and I will ask you. She asked me to ask you because we're texting because she has no internet.
Oh no. Okay. I know. So yeah, the way I view it is like, this is just the beginning. We have, so hopefully, because, you know, startups, we plan on sticking around for very, very many years. And so we have loads of ideas of how we can work with, like, have a children's like version and work with potentially, this is all potential ideas around working with booksellers, publishers, schools. There's so many ideas that we have, but we kind of want to get the core product stable, slick, all the kind of features that we feel, you know, okay, it's a very good foundation. And once the company's profitable, so our main thing now is we have our plus, and we are trying to make sure that provides enough value, that enough people subscribe, that we can stay independent, profitable, sustainable going forward, and invest back into the product and keep improving it. And then in the future, we'll have to see, like, you know, how does the market evolve? Because we you know, maybe we'll work with authors or publishers or schools or parents for like a children's version or family versions. Like, there's loads of ideas on our radar. And like when Rob and I will have chats and we'll go, oh yeah, this, and we have people writing in, asking, parents writing in, teachers writing in, publishers writing to us, all those different booksellers, all those different types of people have messaged us saying, you know, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And often we have, but it's just, you know, we're a small team. So, you know, it's me who CEO, and I'm the sole web and app developer. You know, there's Rob, who is my co-founder, business partner. So he definitely helps with all like business decisions and things like that. But his main focus on the tech side is the machine learning stuff, which obviously there's a lot to do there. But that's just us two mainly full-time on the product. And then we have Abby, who works for us part-time, and she mainly does our customer support now, but also like manages our volunteer librarians and helps me with, you know, if I need, the thing with a startup is there could be random jobs that, you know, need doing, whether it's supporting Rob as he's developing the machine learning algorithm, or, you know, I'll say, we need a better way to organize our reading challenges page. Can you help? Let's think of ideas together. And, you know, you see all the customer support tickets. So what do you think would be helpful? So we have Abby part-time. And so long story short is our bandwidth is limited. So we have to really be ruthless at prioritization. And so we can't think of these longer term projects, but they're definitely in our mind. But long story short is we want to make sure that even if we start to add different avenues, we want our number one thing to be making a tool for readers that help readers, that readers love. Our worst thing would be if the product becomes confused or diluted, or we're not serving readers anymore, because we're exploring other things. So first and foremost is the readers. And if we can work with these other types of organizations, you know, so that it helps enhance even readers' experiences and helps those organizations too, wonderful. But that's something that we are very, like, we want to keep top of mind.
Great. Well, thank you. So Holly, we may have lost her for good, unfortunately, because of the internet. No. Sometimes it's a little unreliable in the basement at our Brooklyn store, unfortunately, but it's okay. So the question that she had, which might be a good question to kind of wrap up on, her question, which is a great one, is: are there any books that you have been introduced to by Storygraph, by your own product, like any sort of surprising titles or? I'm
trying to think, because they're not like, I'm trying to think of some titles now. There's definitely books that I have, done my survey as well and looked at my recommendations and been like, oh, that looks interesting, or I want to read that. And so I have found books that way as well. But the other feature that I love is the filter menu on the to read page, because I, as do a lot of people, I went into the Storygraph, and this was actually how the product became this bigger tracking product, because when the alpha was just a personal recommendation service, and a lot of people were saying, great recommendations, but I already have these books by my bedside that I need to read first, or I'm currently reading these 3 books, and then maybe I'll get to this recommendation. And so why we say choose your next book is because we're saying you might want a completely new recommendation, but more often than not, you have a bunch of other books on your radar, and we will help you choose from that pile, whether it's I want something new, or I actually want something from the books on my shelf already. And so the one that the most, I've found some great recommendations from the Storygraph, and actually I have a few. I'll show you a few that I bought, actually.
Oh yeah, please do.
Which I haven't read yet, but I bought them because I was so excited from Storygraph recommendations. So Long Division by Kiese Layman.
Nice. Oh, and Holly is back, I think. There she is.
Hello. These are books that I discovered from the Storygraph's recommendations that I haven't read yet, but I've bought them. Behold the Dreamers.
Okay. That's a favorite in our store. Yeah. Good one.
And The Old Drift by Namwali Serpel.
Nice.
And it's funny because now that after I bought it, now I see it more regularly a bit more regularly on Bookstagram. Before, I had never seen them. But the main thing one of the things that has happened to me is when I don't know what to read, and then I go to my filter menu on my to read page, and I go, there was this one time I felt like a nonfiction, fast-paced, like kind of dark book, and it pulled up for me Hatching Twitter, which is the story of Twitter. And that book was so exciting. There is so much drama behind the founding of Twitter.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Like, I love nonfiction books like that, which feel like, a novel. But if it were a novel, you would think this can't be real, kind of thing. And so it was perfect. And I love moments like that where I experience the real value from my product. You're muted.
That is so fun.
I'm muted. Sorry. One book you probably have already read that sort of is completely wild. When you mentioned the book about Twitter, is Bad Blood. I don't know if you've read that one yet, but that's one
of my all-time faves.
Oh my gosh, that book! It's like you think it just continues to escalate. There's no de-escalation in that story. It's so wild. Like, I read it and you keep thinking, well, surely it has to turn a corner. Something has to happen. It has to stop getting crazier and crazier. And it doesn't. And it's a true story. Every time I think about that book, I'm like, oh my gosh.
That is the book that I always say, if it were fiction, this would be a really bad novel because you wouldn't believe it, So
absolutely.
That's how I always say to people.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
That's Holly, how I felt. I recently read The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and I had the same reaction of like, if someone was pitching this as a screenplay, they would be told that it was unrealistic and they needed to start over.
It's crazy. I know. It's a crazy story. But you are back now, Holly. Did you have
I'm so sorry. Our basement internet can be a little...
Oh no, she froze again. Are you there? Oh, you're back. You're back. You froze for a minute. That's all. That's okay. That's okay. We're working with it.
Nadia, what books are you recommending to people? What are you reading right now that you really like?
What am I reading right now? So I'm doing actually a buddy read with Rob right now. So we're just 100 or so pages into The Spy and the Traitor by Ben McIntyre, which is about like a a KGB spy during the Cold War era. And so we don't really know, we're both very, if we know we're going to read a book, we don't really read the blurb or what, so we don't know, we have a sense of what it's about, but we don't know what reader is meant to know going into it. So I can't tell you more than it's about a spy in the KGB, but it's meant to be really, really good. I've wanted to read it for years, and so I am enjoying it. There's a lot of detail, and I love, again, nonfiction like this where it's a story, but you're also learning a lot. So I'm learning a lot about spy organizations, and something that's always interested me is like the motivations behind like being a spy and stuff, and things like that I explored. And so I'm really enjoying that. Yeah. I'm also reading a man called Uva.
Oh, I love that one.
So I'm about 100 pages into that. I recently read Us Against You, and that was my second Bachman after reading Bear Town a couple of years ago. And it made me realize, I want to read more of his books, because I just feel like I love his storytelling so much. And so I wanted to read A Man Called Uva for a really long time. So I was like, let me just start with that one. So I'm reading that, and that has emotional vibes. And again, I don't actually, because I didn't read the blurb, I just know how to read it. So I don't know what the reader's meant to know going into it about the main character, but I know it's about this, grumpy old man, and see what happens. And so, yeah. And then finally, I'm reading Broken Stars. I'm reading more books than I would normally, because I'm doing this buddy read with Rob. So I'm waiting for him to catch up with me, so then we can discuss, and then we'll move on. He's watching. So yes, Rob, this is your reminder to make sure you catch up. Okay. So before I forget. Before I forget what I read. But I'm also reading a short story. I'm dipping in and out of a short story collection called Broken Stars. It's a Chinese science fiction. And short stories are not my fave. I'm reading it for a Storygraph reading challenge, actually. We have a genre. I'm reading it for the translation challenge. We have a genre challenge, and one of the prompts is a short story collection by a new to you author. I had Secret Lives of Church Ladies for that, which was great. But I'm also reading Broken Stars for a book translated from Chinese, and some of the stories are a bit have gone a bit over my head a little bit, or I'm a bit not sure what I was meant to take away from that. Some have been really gripping, so yeah, I'm enjoying it.
I'm glad you brought up the challenges, because I think that's been a fun way for me another way to discover beyond just the recommendation engine. Is when I find a challenge, I'm participating in one that's read a book from every country, and that's going to take me years, but it's forcing me to think about where my fiction is coming from, and I really love doing those. I've even set up a few.
Oh yes, and what the prompt, when people are saying they want to, you could use recommendations, but another source is just, you don't even have to join the challenges. You can browse the prompt pages. You can search for certain keywords, browse the prompt pages, and say, oh, I want to read a book from this country, or I want to read a book translated from this language. And I think that is another great way of finding different types of books to read.
Totally.
I'm just popping in. I might have to say goodbye, because I'm just going to help close the store, because I am at our Jersey City store in New Jersey today. Normally I'm in Brooklyn, but it was so nice to meet you. Thank you for answering all of the questions, being so generous, and for creating this amazing product. And thank you for having me, Holly. I will see Holly on Sunday. Maybe someday we'll meet in person, Nadia.
Yeah, that would be
great.
Yeah, that would be great. And I have to visit the bookstore
in Brooklyn or Jersey. You can come by.
Come by,
yes.
Come by. You're like a celebrity here.
I'm often in those areas. I have family there, and
amazing.
Rob's near there too, so I'm definitely going to be back sometime.
Rob can stop by too. Rob, stop by. I see your name in the chat. Stop by Brooklyn. Stop by
Rob
Jersey City.
Rob can do a live interview. Sorry, Rob. I'm just signing up for stuff that you didn't ask to do. You can do an in-store interview Q&A.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it.
There you go, Rob. Booked you a gig.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. It was lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Rob's green. Great. You got
great. We'll have him on next time. I think the only other thing I wanted to ask you about is what is your dream for the product, in terms of when you were imagining it, what was your hope for a user's experience? I know you've talked about like having that friend, but like, yeah, what's your dream for it?
I mean, the dream is to get, so yes, the product is great now and we have excellent recommendations, but we know there's so much more we can do. So my dream is for, you know, loads of people to use it, and to use it because they're like, the Storygraph is the best book product for me. We're not trying to, like I said, our focus is always just going to be readers. We're not going to try and like diversify and become a confused product. We want to really focus in on just being known as being an excellent book product. And I know there are many people out there who already think we are excellent, but Rob and I, we have a long list of things that we haven't even, the recommendations, we've got so many more ideas of what we can do, like everything, even the stats. You know, right now we're on like version 3 of our stats dashboard. We have so many, I'm about to work on version 3 rather. But then we've got so many more ideas. You know, someone emailed me recently about how much they love the reading journal. That's version 1. There's so much more we can do to the reading journal. So essentially, it's just getting to the point where the company is like, because of our Plus subscriptions, we provide enough value to our users that we are profitable and we can keep investing back into the product. It is known as an excellent book app that people, whether we've got average users who use it all the time or people who are like, I just go to the Storygraph when I want to, because when I don't know what to pick, or it's like the #1 bookstore, library, people are like, oh, it's got my back. You know, that would just be the dream. Like, just people just love using Storygraph, you know, like just a wholesome product that builds healthy habits of reading, you know. And yeah, that's our, just making people happy and then enhancing like avid readers' lives, and also getting people who maybe think reading isn't for them into reading, because the whole point is they're giving you a new way to say, okay, you think you don't like reading, but maybe you just haven't found the right book for you. So just tap a few buttons and here you go. So that's the dream.
It feels like it's such a compliment to the kind of stuff we do as booksellers, because like empowers people to find their niche, because the book world is so wide. Like there's so many, literally there's something for everybody, and hopefully they can make this,
I really believe
leverage the Storygraph for that.
Yeah,
I am one of those people who already adores using it, and I can't wait to see what y'all do with it. And I know we have a bookseller who works in our Jersey location. His name's Hans, and he so wanted to be here. It was actually his initial idea to invite you on, because he and I nerd out about the Storygraph a lot. And so we'll have to have you back sometime in the future, and you can meet him. But just know that everybody over here in Word is a big fan.
So yeah, definitely when I'm coming to the East Coast, I will let you know.
Please do. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us. I know it's late there, but it.
It's my bedtime, but you know.
But it was so fun.
I was very happy to do it.
Your reading and the process and everything, and I think we may have convinced Amanda to try it out.
I think so. You can check with her tomorrow and see if she signed up. No pressure. We want people to come in their own time and discover the magic when they're ready.
Well, thank you, Nadia.
Thank you so much, Holly. This was great.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.